Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi guys, I'm Fitri Amasito. Here I will discuss all the material that has been studied during semester 2 as a final semester exam assignment from Miss Anis Komaria. Okay, let's move to the discussion. And first section, we're gonna talk about speech sounds classification. And this section will talk about phonology. So what is phonology? Phonology is a kind that studies about sounds, a branch of linguistics, microlinguistics, and consists of two important parts, namely phonetics and phonemics. So what is phonetics and phonemics? Phonetics is a branch of linguistics which a part of phonology. Phonetics is the study of how sounds are produced by humans using several body parts such as lips, teeth, tongue, and the pharynx. Phonetics also has three important parts, namely articulator, acoustic, and auditory. Now, what is phonemics? Phonemics, also known as a phonology, is a linguistics term that shows the difference in the meaning in the form of sounds produced by humans. There are two parts, namely voice and voiceless. Voice, who are produced when the vocal cords are almost closed and air from the lungs causes the stem to vibrate. All vowels are voice. And voiceless are produced when the vocal cords are open. All consonant in voiceless. English vowels. So what is English vowels? Vowels are zones in which there is no obstruction to the flow of air as it passes from the larynx to the lips. It's defined as two sounds produced with oral cavity relatively open to the flow of air. Ablegin and Strani mentioned vowel sounds are produced by passing air through different shapes of the mouth, with the different position of the tongues and the lips, and with the air stream relatively unobstructed by the narrow passage except at the glottis. And in English vowel, there is such thing as a manner of articulation. Manner of articulation, tongue and the lips. Movement result in a varying shapes of the mouth, which can be described in terms. One is closeness and openness. The second is broadness and backiness, and third is shape of lips. And English vowel, we will talk about diphthongs and triphthongs too. What is diphthongs and what is triphthongs? Diphthongs is a sound made by combining two vowels specifically when it starts as one vowel sound and goes to another. So what is triphthongs? Triphthongs is a glide from one vowel to another and the two teeth all produced rapidly and without interruption. Triphthongs are combination of three vowel combination that trigger fast and smooth articulatory movements from one vowel to the another. The first vowel being a low vowel and then a lower vowel. English consonant. And English consonant, we talk about place of articulation. Place of articulation is the where of pronunciation. It is location of where sounds are produced. We will know where to place our tongue, teeth, and lips when creating sounds, how different sounds involve different parts in the mouth, and how to pronounce all of consonant sounds in English. First, we will look where the different parts of the mouth are located and then look at where each of the English consonants are pronounced. The place of articulation refers to the point in the vocal tract where the speech organ restricts the passage of air in some way, so producing distinctive speech sounds. Finch, as with a manner of articulation, place of articulation are more frequently used to describe consonant than vowels. The following are the principal terms used in linguistics to describe this. Bilabial sounds formed by both lips coming together. Labiodental sounds formed by the bottom lips touching the upper teeth, and dental sounds formed by the tongues touch the upper teeth, and alveolar sounds formed by the tongues coming into the contact with the heart or alveolar ridge, immediately behind the upper teeth. And last consonant, we talk about a manner of articulation as well as material in English vowel. Manner of articulation. The how of making sounds. When learning our first language, we don't usually think about how make the sounds we do. We just reproduce what we heard over the first few years of our life. We make the sounds without thinking how our mouth, tongue, and teeth are doing, unless we need the additional support of speech therapy. Here's how to produce sounds using articulation tools. One is nasal, the second is soft, and third is fricative, four affricative, five approximant, and six lateral. The section we talk about syllable. So what is syllable? Syllable or syllable is a word forming unit composed of one phonemes or skeins of phonemes. Syllable are often considered the phonological building units of words because they can affect the rhythm of word. For example, syllable 1 in word is shy, kind, able, let, and rage. Syllable 2, for example, live, famous, easy, nervous, bitter, eager, and tender. Syllable 3, for example, comfortable, attractive, delicious, mysterious, agreeable, magnificent, and important. Stress pattern. A stress times language is a language where the stress syllable are sites and approximately regular intervals, and unstressed syllable shortened to fit this rhythm. Stress time language can be compared with the syllable times once, but each syllable takes roughly the same amount of times. For example, consider the following two syllable words. The first word uses the stress pattern, the second the stress pattern. You will notice that in each case we pronounce the entrance vowel as schwa, less of its spellings. Stress in simple word. English word stress is probably best occurred by listening rather than by trying to learn the rules. However, word stress has a profound effect on intelligibility, and three are some rules which can help. Before looking at some example, we should distinguish between morphologically simple and complex words. If a word contains affix, prefix, or suffix, or is compound, it is complex. Consider the word class, adjective, noun, or etc. Count the number of syllables. Decide whether the syllable is strong or weak. Phonemic analysis. Phonemic analysis is the process of analyzing a spoken language to figure out what its phonemes are, what the elements are of these phonemes, and what each element's distribution is the resulting. Overall analysis is called a phonemization of the language. Language do not generally have one single unique phonemization because there are many possible ways of dividing up the phonemes of language into phonemes. Phonemes are theoretical and abstract concepts. There is no direct way to see if the analysis is correct. In that, some linguistics reject the notion of phonemes completely. Since it is possible to analyze the phonology of a language without them. However, the experimental evidence that speakers do make use of something phonemes like, and until we are able to open up the human brain and find exactly how language is represented, phonemes are a reasonable analysis. In this section, we will talk about what is intonation is and the function of intonation. So, what is intonation? Intonation is the melody of the sentence. Intonation is created by change in the pitch of the voice. The voice gets higher and lower, remains on the same level, rises or falls. By sentence stress, strong stress on important words, weak stress or no stress on less important words, And by rhythm, stretched syllables occur at more or less equal intervals. In the most important meaning for determining the type of sentence: statement, question, comment, or question. Some function of intonation. Fall, yes or no. Breathe, yes or no. Fall and breathe, yes or no. And breathe, fall, yes or no. Level, yes or no. Fall, yes and no. This is the tune about which list needs to be said, and which is usually regarded as more or less natural. Raise yes and no. In a variety of ways, this tune conveys an impression that something more is to follow. A typical occurrence in a dialogue between two speakers whom we shall call A and B might be the following. A. Wishing to attracts B's attention. Excuse me. B. Say yes. B's reply is perhaps equivalent to what do you want. Fall rest yes and no. The fall rest is used a lot in English and has some rather special function. In the present context, we will only consider an one fairly simple one, which could perhaps be described as a limited agreement or response with reservation. Example may make this clearer. A. I have heard that it is a good school. B. Yes. B's reply would be taken to mean that he would not completely agree with it with A said, and it would probably expect B to go on to explain why he was reluctant to agree. Similarly, A. It is not really an expensive book, is it? B. No. The fall raise in the B's reply again indicates that he would not completely agree with A. Fall raise in such contexts almost always indicate both something given or considered and at the same time some reservation or hesitation. Rise, fall, and yes or no. This is used to convey rather strong feelings of approval, disapproval, or surprise. It is not usually considered to be an important tone for foreign learners to occur, although it is still a usual practice to learn to distinguish it from other tunes. Here are some examples. A. You would not do an awful things like that, would you? No? Is it a few lovely? Yes, I think you said it was the best so far. Yeah. Well, yes and no. This tune is certainly used in English, but in rather restricted context. It almost always conveys on single syllable utterance, a feeling of saying something routine, interesting, or boring. In this section, we talk about this. What is rhythm? What is assimilation? What is elation? What is linking? What is liaison? What is juncture? What is contraction? Rhythm is a form of structure that plays an organizing role in speech. Despite this, all incompleteness of potential rhythmic searches in speech. Some processes play a more dominant role than others in defining what is commonly felt to be the rhythm of a phrase. Assimilation concerned with the sounds becoming phonetically similar to an adjacent sounds. Sounds that belong to one word can cause change in sounds belonging to other words. When a word's pronunciation is affected by sounds in a neighboring word, we call this process. Elysian, the term Elysian describes the sequence of a sounds. For example, in the utterance, he lives next week speaker would generally leave out the T in next saying next week, next. Again, here the reason is a comedy of effort, and in some instances the difficulty of putting certain consonant sounds together while maintaining a regular rhythm and speed. Linking or connecting is the method where words or sounds are linking together. In our theoretical mechanical speech, all words would be isolated units put following to each other in grouping. And Jenny associates this course. In any case, we connect words together in a number of ways. Liaisons refers to the linking of the final consonant of one word with the beginning vowel. Vowel sound generally H and Y of the following word. It is basically means the linking of sounds or words, and that simply means that when we speak we link or merge word into each other. We do that in our mother tongue because we are so comfortable with it, and that's why doing it your second language will sound as if you are native speakers. Juncture. Juncture is the transition of one segmental phoneme to another. It causes a lot of problem and difficult for fragile learners to distinguish between two parts. It sound not only the same contraction probably than most abafius and best talk features of connect speech and English. A contraction, for example, even the most conservative teacher will highlight that it is more common to say it than is in most circumstances. Contraction. Contraction probably the most obvious and best house features of connection speech and English are contraction. For example, even the most constructive teacher will highlight that it is more common to say it is than it is most circumstance. The vast majority of contraction in English happen with the main verb be. The auxiliary verb, have, and the participle not. And the last material, this section we talk about speech variation. Basically, language is systematic and universal. Language is dynamic because it is always changing, especially with regards to vocabulary. Language is unique because each language has its own characters. While language is universe because there are always things that can be found in every language. Language is human because only humans have language, and the variety of language can be seen from the diversity that arises to regional, local influence, users, and fields of use. Language variety is the variation of language according to usage, which differs according to the topic discussed, according to the speaker's relationships, friends, and speaking, the person being speaking of, and according to the medium of the speaker. Variety of language, this arises because of cultural background, history, or geographical location. As a result, first variation of the Indonesian language emerged. This variety of language has various types. They are distinguished based on three things, namely the way communicating, the way of speaking, and the topic of talks. My video, I apologize if there are wrong words or short spelling. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.